Olá pessoal, estou aqui na Universidade Federal Fluminense no nosso simpósio de pensamento médico baseado em evidências com o professor Franz Borschoit, que é um alemão criador de ideias interessantes a respeito do pensamento médico baseado em evidências. E uma das ideias, um dos termos que Franz criou é o termo de perceived safety, que a gente poderia traduzir como segurança percebida pelo paciente, e que esse termo ou essa característica do pensamento humano influencia em demasia decisões médicas e faz com que a gente muitas vezes faça coisas que a gente não deveria fazer, ou se afaste do paradigma da medicina baseada em evidências. First, we are talking about perceived safety, and you told us a very interesting story when you had a friend who is piloting this Lufthansa airline. Can you tell us about this?
Yeah, actually it was a Lufthansa pilot, and we met at an occasion and we had a beer together and we started to talk what he as a pilot can learn from me as a medical doctor and vice versa. So he started out and he said, you know, we are very much concerned about the principle of safety. And then I asked him, you know, what kind of safety do you think of? And he said, you know, under each seat we have this life vest in the airplane. And I said, you know, I'm a doctor working with evidence-based medicine, so I would be interested, what is the evidence that there is a benefit of having these life vests under the seat? And I asked him, how many lives did you save with these life vests? And he said, in civil aviation, 0. Nobody's life was saved by these life vests.
So why do they put life vests?
Yeah, I asked him, you should kick out all these life vests. He said, are you crazy?
It must be very expensive to have all these life vests.
Yeah, of course, you have to maintain them, you have to renew them, you know, some just disappears.
So the airline know that. Why do they keep putting that, and every takeoff they explain us that the life vest is here, you have to be trained before taking off. Why this?
Luis, exactly this question we discussed in our group, and we came to the conclusion there must be something like perceived safety. People feel safe when they have this life vest. And then we continued this discussion and we came to the conclusion perceived safety is important to so many different areas. And actually I had 4 students who wrote a doctoral thesis on perceived safety. So the first one, she was a doctor and wrote a thesis on perceived safety of breast cancer, of patients after breast cancer in a self-help group. You know, many people after breast cancer are organized in self-help group. So she wrote a beautiful thesis describing the advantages and disadvantages of being in a self-help group and how this information influences the perceived safety. Some information increases and the other information decreases the perceived safety.
So we are giving an example of a thing that would bring perceived safety, and it's good to give some perceived safety to the patients. But also there are examples that when we look too much for this perceived safety, we are starting to do things, futile things, and that could have a bad effect. Can you give us examples of?
Absolutely.
Because the life vest in an airplane, I think the only problem is the cost.
Yeah.
But it's not our problem. We are there. We don't get side effects from being aware of that life vest. We get perceived safety, which is good for a person who is going in an airplane. But there are some situations in medicine that when we work too much, to give too much perceived safety, we may have some doing too much tests or too much medicine. Can you explain this?
No, I mean, this is absolutely true. Almost any action in medicine is can be changed in either direction, either to increase the perceived safety of the patient or to decrease the perceived safety. Imagine you ask a patient, didn't you have a coloscopy, for prevention of colon cancer? And the patient would say, no, I didn't. Or you should have one. So the patient feels bad, and he goes home and he talks to the family and says, oh, the doctor strongly recommended to have this and that examination. Do you see how easy we can induce a particular mind or the perception of the patient about necessary or unnecessary interventions?
Yes, in cardiology, my field, we, in general, stress tests are ordered. It doesn't bring any clinical benefit to a symptomatic patient, but I think it brings this perceived safety. But it's not justifiable to give perceived safety doing the stress test, because there is a very large side effect of overdiagnosis, over-treatment in this situation. And maybe in your area, screening cancer should be the same. There's some examples.
Absolutely, but it's not only screening, it's also treatment. Imagine you have a patient who has got cancer, and this patient had surgery. And then the patient would ask you, is there any additional treatment after surgery? And you usually know as a doctor whether there is a useful treatment. But sometimes the doctor feels urged, to recommend something.
Chemotherapy after surgery,
course.
Just for perceived safety.
Yeah,
so having a life vest for perceived safety is okay, but having chemotherapy just for perceived safety, it's too much a cost.
And I will in the course discuss examples where we have standard treatment of adjuvant chemotherapy after surgery of cancer, which is absolutely not valid. So it's extremely hard first to detect this wrong information, and second, to get it out of the literature, to inform people that it was not valid and it should not be recommended to the patients.
Ok, very good. Então, a gente deve começar realmente a pensar e refletir sobre essa questão da segurança percebida. De fato, é humano querer ter segurança, nós queremos sempre nos afastar de riscos, mas cuidado para não fazer muitas coisas apenas para aparentar segurança, porque muitas dessas coisas podem ter efeitos colaterais graves, que é o caso do overdiagnóstico ou overtratamento. Claro que na prática clínica algumas coisas podem, se vierem sem efeito deletério ou tiverem algum benefício e junto disso ainda dá mais segurança ao paciente, isso é humano querer trazer uma sensação de segurança. Mas a gente deve ter cuidado para não fazer demais e sempre baseado no the principle of less is more. I think it has a lot to do with the perceived safety.
Absolutely.
So these perceived safety things go against less is more, maybe against choosing wisely, right? So it's wise to give some safety to the patient, but safety is different to perceived safety.
So I would say it is an ethical obligation to understand the principle of safety, of perceived safety, and to apply it correctly.
Okay, thank you very much for bringing this concept to us, to creating this, because I think that when we create expression, it's easier to incorporate in our minds. So I think it's genius, this idea. Thank you very much.
Thank you.